In 2010, detained in Liberia in a sting operation brought onto U.S. soil. In 2011, sentenced to 20 years behind bars for conspiring to internationally smuggle drugs. The case of Russian pilot Konstantin Yaroshenko, stirring relations between Moscow and Washington, returns to the headlines yet again. After the imprisoned pilot's numerous cries for medical help remained unanswered in the U.S., his lawyer, after visiting the man in jail, raised an alarm, saying his client needs urgent medical care if he is to live, saying Yaroshenko seems to be on the brink of a heart attack.
Yaroshenko did appear sick to me. His face was red. He visibly had shortness of breath. He would take pauses in our conversation to compose himself. He was confused, generally appeared to be having difficulty remembering the dates and the chronology of the different events that took place this week.
Prison officials say they will now look into his health with an emergency checkup at a hospital. But Moscow is demanding that the Russian citizen being held in a New Jersey prison be allowed a proper visit from Russian diplomats, as well as Russian and American doctors, for a full examination of his health and a proper professional health assessment.
Nobody has confirmed that Yaroshenko is experiencing problems with his health or that there's any problem with access to medical treatment. Moreover, it was claimed that he had not requested any medical help at all. That is not true. Konstantin requested medical assistance a number of times.
A man with no previous criminal background anywhere in the world, someone who has never even stepped foot on U.S. soil prior to his being snatched up by U.S. officials, Yaroshenko became the first Russian citizen to be sentenced in the U.S. for an intent to participate in a crime that was built by special agents posing as drug dealers arrested in a third country. At the time of his sentencing, the case was dubbed a historic undercover operation by the prosecution and a provocation by the defense. The Russian man in his 40s repeatedly pled not guilty in this case and claimed he was beaten and tortured following his detention. His wife Victoria says he had no health problems prior to that.
About a month ago, he had a high fever and couldn't get up for days. Nobody looked after him. He was physically unable to walk across the prison to the medical block, where he would have queued for hours. Because of his constant coughing, he was keeping his cellmates awake, and they were becoming hostile to him. Konstantin used to be a healthy man, but his problems started after his detention in Africa, when he was beaten severely for 3 days by the people who detained him.
When Konstantin Yaroshenko was arrested, Russian officials were not duly notified, and Moscow cited a breach of international law and diplomatic misconduct. The Russian Foreign Ministry has been urging Washington to properly intervene in this case a handful of times. So far, to no avail. RT has reached out to the U.S. State Department, the Department of Justice, as well as organizations like the ACLU, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International. But we have not received any comment so far. The nonchalance surrounding this case in the U.S. was apparent from the early stages. U.S. officials said they didn't let Russia know about bringing its citizens to U.S. soil because of pressing the wrong button on a fax machine, notifying Romania instead of Russia. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.